G'day guys and gal. The orcs are an interesting bunch. Some may say special. On one hand, they are these horrifying gigantic monsters who love violence, will rip you limb from limb, eat you alive, torture you for fun, and are all around terrifying. On the other hand, they are very comical, speak like they were already born retarded and got dropped anyway, and are often the galaxy's biggest punching bag. This combination has made them a fan favorite, with basically everyone who knows of Warhammer liking the orcs regardless if they paint them or not. But what about in-lore? What do the various factions think of the orcs? Who views them as a horrifying threat? Who views them as a meme? And who just seems to see them as a nuisance that occasionally needs to get swatted? Today we'll find out. Before we get started, we have just crossed over our first year of Natty Plus. What a year it has been. Natty Plus is a supplement company I founded because I was sick of supplement companies taking the piss, lying or using ingredients that are either underdosed, unbioavailable, or a genuine snake oil, because those ingredients are obviously cheaper to use. So we said fuck it and created the most obscene hero stacks of ingredients, using the studied doses, bioforms, and standardizations, and created supplements that actually work, and I can actually prove it. This is Will's blood work. Using the test booster, he tripled his testosterone without changing anything else. John increased his by 77%, Cade increased his by 50%, as did Mano. I could go on, with each of our products having its own blood work or biometrics that verify it works. Not to mention a shit ton of reviews. What is the catch? Why doesn't every supplement company do this? Well, the catch is Natty Plus is pretty expensive because our supplements are very expensive to produce. I would say our testosterone booster is about twice as expensive for us to produce versus the other big ones on the market, and up to 4 times more expensive to produce than the snake oil. So as a result, our supplements are more expensive, but you are getting a lot of value out of it compared to, let's say, one that does nothing but it's half the price. To help you with this, use my link or code Majorkill for 20% off store-wide. Today we'll go over each faction's opinion on the orcs to see how people really feel about these lovable green sadists. Let's get into it. Let's start off with the Imperium, because I'm racist like that. Humanity number 1. The Imperium is quite diverse. You have Titans in the same faction as peasants, and the two have wildly different opinion on the orcs, so we'll have to break it down further. For Imperial citizens and planetary defense forces, orcs are a complete nightmare. They viciously rip your forces apart while yelling "Wow!" like maniacs. They burn your homes and relish your pain. Now, they aren't as sadistic or war crime as, let's say, Chaos or the Dark Eldar, but that's like saying getting beaten to death with a wooden spoon is a way better way to die than getting flayed alive than dipped into a vat of salted lemon juice. Objectively, yes, but it's still shit. The saving grace is that orcs have ADHD and love fighting, so they will often kill you quick or deliberately ignore civilian populations in favor of attacking combatants. Now for guardsmen, orcs are still a threat. However, they are also the most common foe the guardsmen have to face, thus they're quite used to them and know how to deal with them. They don't see them as a non-threat or non-scary. However, the orcs have lost their shock factor, so the guardsmen mostly just hold them in contempt due to how brutal and unsophisticated they often are. Space Marines don't often take the orcs seriously, as they have fought and beaten them time and time again. The only time the Space Marines lock the fuck in is when the orcs are on Armageddon or gas colors around, which is a similar attitude to the Sisters of Battle. The rest of the time they're confident, and for the Custodian Guard, they fucking body them so they never really talk about them. The Mechanicus are interesting. They find orc tech very fascinating, as by all accounts, most of it shouldn't actually work. The physics and mechanics generally cannot be replicated by human technology due to the orc power of belief. Since the Mechanicus also indulges in the whole "please holy toaster, accept my gift of prayer and oil and turn on," which is similar to the way orcs views their tech, except the orcs just assume it will work, so it often does, there is a bit of a kindred spirit there. However, that's as far as it goes, as the Mechanicus sees most orc tech as dog shit, other than the attack moons. They were very impressed with the attack moons. Now for the Eldar. On one hand, the orcs are one of the few races that fought in the War of Heaven and survived to the current setting, which generally does warrant respect from other races that survived the War in Heaven, such as the Eldar and the Necrons. But saying the orcs survived the War in Heaven thus deserve respect is like saying T-Rexes survived the meteor because there are chickens that are descendant from them walking around. You don't see autistic kids going nuts over chickens like they do for T-Rexes. That, combined with the Eldars' general disdain for basically everyone, means their opinion on the orcs isn't very high. They find them to be a savage nuisance that is easily avoidable, so the Eldar often win not through battle, but by reading potential futures and making adjustments that avoid defeats. If a Crawford is on a collision course with an orc fleet, as the orcs are so straightforward and predictable, it's easy to read the fates involving them. Thus, the Crawford will adjust course or bait an Imperial fleet into engaging the orcs instead. As such, orcs and Eldar conflicts are actually quite rare. In the cases they do encounter each other, the Eldar stomp. with one piece of lore showing the Eldar being forced to abandon their avatar of Cain on a planet full of orcs. When they later came back to try find its corpse, they were shocked to see it alive and well, standing on a mountain of orc corpses. So overall, the Eldar see the orcs as overgrown vermin who do nothing but embarrass the memories of the Krorks and the old ones themselves. Exodites hate them more as they can't really move their maiden worlds, so are much more vulnerable to them, whilst the Dark Eldar find them entertaining, finding it an especially fun challenge to torture and torment an orc due to their insane pain tolerance and simple minds. In terms of just straight up hatred rather than something like contempt, we have the Tau's opinion. No one hates orcs more than the Tau. When the Tau Empire first started growing, most of the races they encountered were happy to integrate, and overall it was nice. Very Star Trek vibes. Then they encountered the orcs and things went to shit. The orcs laughed at negotiations and would just kill Tau envoys for the fun of it. They then brutalized Tau cities and worlds and they seemed unstoppable. It was the first time the Tau Empire ever classified a race as kill on sight with extreme prejudice. They had been pushed to the brink of collapse by orcs multiple times, only surviving due to immense sacrifice and the rise of heroes like Commander Farsight. To most of the galaxy, the orcs are a dangerous nuisance. For the Tau, they're an existential threat that is deserving only of complete genocide. For the Necrons, it's a bit more lighthearted. The Necrons absolutely remember and respect the threat of the orcs. After all, they were literally there during the War in Heaven, and the Krorks were a nightmare for them. However, because they know how far the orcs have fallen, they barely register them as a threat. Like an orc army or fleet is more of an eye roll than anything to the Necrons. Although there was a funny scene where the orcs once boarded a Necron ship. Now, Necron ships are not pressurized or have any form of oxygen, as the Necrons don't need it. However, the orcs didn't know that and assumed the ship was like any other ship, so their power of belief allowed them to breathe in the Necron ship anyway. The scene from the Necron's perspective is quite funny and goes like this: "Captain, orc boarders inbound." And then the captain says, "But how? The ship is not pressurized." And then there's a small pause before the captain says, "Prepare to repel boarders." That single Necron ship with its small complement of warriors would then go on to defeat the Orc fleet, showing just how much the Necrons outclassed the Orcs and how little the Necrons cared for them. In saying that, some tomb worlds have fallen to Orc invasions before, but often it's because the tomb was dormant or only begun awakening halfway through an Orc incursion. Now, one thing we often do not get in Warhammer 40k is Tyranid POVs, or at least very rarely. However, we can get a lot of information from Tyranid actions, and Tyranid actions indicate that they absolutely love fighting the Orcs, and you can't blame them. The Orcs are literal biomatter factories. They grow extremely fast, or almost entirely organic, multiply like crazy, and they love charging into battles. For the Nids, it's like a full buffet. The Orcs also don't really engage in chemical, bio, or often flame warfare, which are the types of warfare the Tyranids absolutely despise. Now, the Tyranids still have to deal with the Orcs as a big threat. Orcs often defeat Nids in battle, and Orcs are one of the few races that Genestealers have an incredibly hard time infiltrating, as other Orcs can sense the wrongness of a Genestealer Orc, and will crump them. However, the Tyranids recently won the Octarius War, an all-out multi-planetary war between Orcs and Nids that resulted in the Tyranids gaining an obscene amount of biomass and turbocharging their power prior to the next Tyrannic War. The Tyranids were in heaven during this war, not only overwhelming the Orcs due to raw power, but often strategically outplaying them as well. Whilst all the other races love employing hit and run, skirmishing, and other frustrating methods of war on the Nids that cause large losses of Tyranid biomass with little gain, I mean, the Tau literally engineered a nanovirus just for the Nids, and the Mechanicus once set their sky on fire. The Orcs, on the other hand, just keep doing the same shit over and over again, and the Nids fucking love them for it. Now for Chaos. Many within the Traitor Legions fought within both the Great Crusade and Horus Heresy, thus experienced many battles against the Orcs, battles that the Imperium continually won. Because of that, and how the Orcs are still often given a smackdown in the current setting, the forces of Chaos are not too bothered or threatened by the Orcs. Yes, they are still a genuine player and a threat, and yes, both the Traitor Legions and Demonic Legions have lost to the Orcs numerous times. For example, when Tusker Demon Killer decided to Leroy Jenkins into the warp on a merry-go-lucky quest to kill as many demons as possible, his literally wiped multiple demon worlds clean, killing millions of demons, cultists, and even entire Traitor Legion warbands. In the Arks of Omen campaign, Commander Farsight entered a three-way war between his Tau, a Khornite Legion, and Orcs. The Orcs ended up winning, so they aren't to be ignored or dismissed. However, Chaos has bigger fish to fry. It's going hard on the Imperium right now, and unfortunately for their Orcs, their heaviest hitter, Gazkull, would stand no chance against most of Chaos's big dogs. Any of the Demon Primarchs, even Abaddon, would fuck Gaz up bad, so it's hard for them to take the Orcs too seriously. The Chaos Gods themselves actually loathe the Orcs and desire their extinction. They cannot be tempted or corrupted. Khorne offers them nothing they don't already have from Gork. Zinch offers them nothing they don't get from Mork. Slaanesh is just some dumb ho to them, and orcs are highly resistant to Nurgle-like diseases. The fucked thing is that because of their wah energy and direct connection to their own gods, schemes or violence the orcs commit do not empower chaos at all, something Khorne finds especially abhorrent. So overall it's a split perception, as chaos isn't one united force, it's the opposite. To chaos, it ranges from orcs being low down on the priority list to others hating the fact that orcs are immune to the chaos Kool-Aid. As always, we don't have much juicy lore from the Leagues of Votann. However, orcs are definitely one of their greatest headaches due to how far and wide the orcs are spread throughout the galaxy, including close to the galactic core. Dwarves and orcs have also been natural enemies across time, space, reality, and settings, since they were both conceived by Tolkien many years ago. But I don't know an insane amount about it, nor have I read bits of lore going over specific interactions or plot points yet, so I'm not just going to make shit up. And finally, what do the orcs think about themselves? Well, self-aware isn't one of the terms I would generally use to describe an orc. They don't often sit down and contemplate the meaning of life or their purpose in the galaxy. Imagine the orcs are the boys. 10 pints deep and someone just found a bag of coke in their pocket. It's also Friday night and everyone's paychecks just came in, and a cute girl that one of the boys is talking to told him to meet her at a different bar, and she was with a bunch of hot single friends. Imagine you're one of those boys. Now you can imagine what it's like being an orc. You are hyped, fired up, and ready to have fun. You aren't worrying about the pressures of life or work on Monday or how your head will feel tomorrow. You're just living in the moment and having the time of your life with your mates. While I can't say that an orc would come up with this analogy for himself and his wah, their lack of self-awareness means this is the closest example I can give you. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then pick up some 90+ subs. Supplements that actually work for once, not the usual bullshit. Hit the subscribe button, hit the real subscribe button for more crump and content. Join the Discord for more memes, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.